Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for staying to the end of the film and after the end of the film. We're so excited to have you. I'm Shayna Macy Warner. I'm the Assistant Programmer and Community Partnership Coordinator for NewFest. And right now we're about to start the Q&A for RURANGI, which I was just given a lesson on how to pronounce by our amazing guest, for the producer, the writer, and the director of the incredible film you just watched. So hi, everyone. Thank you so much for
Kia
being
ora.
here. And, oh, there we go. Okay, now I can see everybody's names and not have to rely on my own faulty memory. So thank you so much for being here and for sharing your brilliant and beautiful film with us. And a film that is so incredibly layered and complex and has just so many important themes going on within it, all woven together so seamlessly. So thank you so much for sharing that with us and our audiences.
Thanks, Shayna.
Thank you. It was lovely.
So I would love to start out just with kind of a brief summation of your history together, if you will, about how this project started and then how everybody got attached to it.
You were there from the start.
Should I jump onto that?
Yeah, you start, Craig.
Well, this project started back in a media company with a writer's room. And from that, you know, there was immediately this amount of money that New Zealand On Air, who's our local government body here, had put into it. And it was just such a wonderful opportunity to engage the community on, to actually build. So Cole got brought on quite early at that stage to work with another writer, Oliver Page, to develop the script for Rurangi. And so it kind of grew from there, and it started off as just like a little web series, and then grew and grew and grew and grew and grew until now it's a series and this feature film. After we had, you know, it just kept rolling and kept gaining momentum and kept growing, and huge amount of community support, and yeah, it's been quite a wild ride. But yeah, so Cole came on, and then Max came on just shortly after Cole, and did a lot of work with Cole and Oliver right at that early stage in development, and then us three have kind of stuck together the whole way through.
Yeah,
really.
I like to call us the three co-parents.
Yeah, but yeah, I think
it feels like a you know, our baby now.
Yeah, and I think when I look back on the kind of the origin, the way the project came about, I think it was a real watershed moment when, you know, Craig got Cole on board as the trans voice of the show. And then there were some kind of gear changes there to make sure that Cole was kind of at the center of the storytelling. And I think that's really when things kind of came together in a really important way.
That's really wonderful to hear. And I'm so glad that centering happened to make the film what it is today. I would just love to ask, because I know it's gone through so many different stages of development, what have the differences been going from something like web series to full-blown episodic to feature film? What were the changes and learning curves along the way? Oh, Craig's laughing.
That's probably one for you too, Craig.
Oh wow! I mean, I think, you know, there's so much to that. There's questions about story. There's questions, you know, about your arcs. I think it's. I think taking it back a bit, what was more important was, you know, we had this opportunity, you know, we had this little bit of support from the government, and we had this opportunity to kind of create a trans story made by the trans community for the trans community. And it's, you know, when you've got that opportunity, how you want to make the most of it. You want to just kind of make it as good as it can be and take it as far as it can be. And so I think in terms of like that process, it was hard. You know, it's constantly trying to find more support, to grow the production, to constantly looking back at the scripts. You know, we had a trans panel who basically could veto the script or any stage of production at different stages, depending on whether they felt if it was going off track in terms of having a strong trans voice or not, which
Yeah.
Cole ran.
Yeah, and
I think
these were people that were very much leaders within the community themselves, rather than just 5 random trans people we pulled off the street. And so we knew that that was at a very high level with these decisions, and these decisions being made about whether this was the way the trans community wanted to be portrayed, and whether this was the kind of things we wanted to see, or whether this was going to be damaging or dangerous in any way to put these messages out there. So that was a very important part about this process.
One of the
Sorry to
changes
interrupt you, Greg.
one of the changes that I noticed kind of as things evolved towards the film that you at home have just enjoyed, hopefully. For me, I don't know about you two, but there was an increasing sense of like confidence in like the quality of what we're making, the talent of what we're making. Because when we started out, we didn't have a cast. It was this really big question mark of like, okay, who are the great trans actors in New Zealand? Like, how are we gonna, how's this gonna turn out? So, there was this sort of, it started small, and then I think, as our actors came on board, as like Cole did umpteenth draft of his scripts, as we started kind of working together, there was this incredible sense of community, because alongside the series and the film is this huge community effort, including like fundraising, and a sort of an internship program, and sort of as that went on, there was sort of a realization that, oh my god, this is really fucking good, and like these people could just like surpassed our wildest dreams in terms of their talent and ability, and that's why you kind of see this process of us, we just keep punching up. And so what started off as a web series is now this fully fledged feature film. And I think there's this sense of momentum and kind of wonder at just how good it was.
Yeah, and I think that kind of kept building on itself as well, because the fact that we were attracting this, realizing that we had this incredible talent pool that we were working with, and certainly for me it was these moments where I kept thinking like, these people don't, it's not that they're getting huge amounts of money to work with us, and they're not at this point getting huge amounts of kudos or credit or esteem working on this project, and realizing that it was that they were drawn to the core of what, and the heart of what this project is about, and what this film is about, and that was what was driving us all through significant adversity and significant challenges and things like that, was that everyone attached to it believed so wholeheartedly in what we were making, both as a product, like as a story and what was being seen, but also as a process, as all the behind the scenes stuff, like Max mentioned the internship program, but there were so many elements behind the scenes as far as training, as far as looking at power dynamics and hierarchical structures, looking at compassionate filmmaking and consultative filmmaking, and that was kind of just as important as what was kind of happening story-wise, on the page. It was what was happening story-wise for Rurangi as a project.
Absolutely. And it seems like you're kind of going through this, just breaking into different pieces of development. It seems like you're going through a lot of myths that we kind of have about filmmaking, about whether something can be an inclusive production or it can be a production made from the community that the story is actually about. So I wanted to go a little bit more on that route and ask about the kind of myth that we're not able to find like enough trans people to be in these roles, or not able to find trans writers or anything. And that's kind of the excuse that's put out a lot for why these productions have people who perhaps shouldn't be in those roles and don't know the experience. So I would love to hear a little bit more about this internship program, to hear about casting. How did you go about that to make this such a trans-centric production and film?
Cole put his foot down in terms of the casting, right, Cole? Like, tell us about the ultimatum.
Oh, well, I mean, I think, it was something that was important to all of us that, we did this right, and that, we weren't going to make something that, would get, maybe us lots of praise and whatnot, but actually be really damaging to the community.
Mm.
And certainly, no trans roles were going to go to anyone other than trans actors. And we all kind of sat down at one point, and we all agreed. We all said, we're not going to make this if we can't find, our Kaz as a trans actor, of the level that we need. Then it's not going to be a case of, well, we'll just hire a cis actor and that'll be good enough. It was like, well, then we don't make this. We put this, maybe put this aside for however long it takes until that happens. And also to look then to start thinking about, what are the reasons why we might not find trans actors, and that's about having access to the community in the right ways. I know that that's one of the problems often that can happen with these kind of productions is people just don't know who to ask or don't know where to put it out there to. It's about having casting briefs that aren't automatically putting trans people on the warning bells, because I've seen ones like that where you're looking for a trans actor to play a role, but the casting brief has got some problematic language and outdated ideas in it, and so trans people just don't go for those roles because if it's stuffed up at the casting brief stage, then what's it going to be like being on set? And yeah, and then another thing is about, have trans people had the opportunities to get experience or to get training in these areas, and what can you do about that then? What can you do to make sure that trans people going for these roles know that they're going to be safe and supported and respected on set? And in areas such as wardrobe and makeup, and how's the art department going to be organized? It's just it's that thing where you start going, oh my god, no, it's going into everything now, and there's so many things we have to think about, and it's really stressful, and we need so much more money to do these things. And but it was always, for all of us, I think, the determination to do that right to the best of our ability.
And there's an example of, I think, a really concrete example of just how that paid dividends for us, which is in the casting of Al's Carrot. Al's, and he wished he could be here today, so apologies on behalf of Al's, but he had to come out as trans to take this role. That's an enormous step. And so when Cole's talking about that, this isn't just about putting trans people in front of the camera. This is about, a trans-centered production, so that we look and walk and taste and smell like, something that, has trans people at the center of it. And Als talks about how when he got the script, straight away, he understood this character. It spoke to him, and so he put his hand up in a really big way, having never been, in front of a camera before, having never acted before. And I think, had that casting brief, been written, by a cisgender team with no consultation, I think there's no way that he would have very bravely kind of come forward. And that's how we found, this incredibly charismatic, talent, our leading man. And, that's just one example of how I think, making sure someone like Cole is kind of centered in the decision-making just attracts the right people to the project.
Yeah, and to kind of give those spaces where people feel comfortable feeling like, I haven't done this before, I have no experience, but I want to give this a go. I feel like I've got the goods. You know, I'm speaking as Els here. And I know from all these little indicators of things that going into this, I will feel safe and I will feel supported and respected. Because for trans people existing in the world, so much of it is about these tiny little indicators that say, you know, do people know that I exist here? You know, am I gonna be safe here? Like, you know, am I gonna be respected as my gender identity gonna be respected here? And little things, you know, like gender neutral bathrooms or seeing, you know, open gender forms on boxes and all of this sort of stuff. Those are our little, indicators of those sorts of things. And so, trying to, and it's very, you know, nuanced, and it's very in the little details. And so when you do have that trans team or that trans voice or consultation at the core of things, whose voice is at a level that, you know, the feedback and the decisions are gonna actually happen. Because I've certainly been in positions in many times before where I've been a consultant, but actually, you know, it hasn't really meant that they were going to listen to anything that I said.
Right.
Whereas at this point, it was like, if I said, you know, this is damaging, or, you know, this is bad language, stuff like that, then, you know, it was always a case of, well, then we're going to change it. You know, what's the right thing to say then? How do we fix this? And that's just been such an amazing experience. And these two wonderful men here, I love them to bits. Yeah.
That's so wonderful to hear. So, I mean, and it really shows throughout the whole film too, which is incredible. And I read in an interview, I think with you, Max, that there were also trans actors in this film who played cis characters as well. Which,
characters that would more traditionally be cis, and that felt like a big kind of subversive achievement. It sort of felt like, you know, sort of just reversing the trend a bit, and was, I think, Cole, you know, you found it enormously satisfying, you know, as did the rest of us.
Very much. I find it tickles me very much.
absolutely.
But it is that case of like, why is it that, you know, trans people are playing cis roles in these things? It's because, you know, every single character is assumed to be cis unless they're specified as being trans. And until we get to a point where, when it says, you know, woman 40s, whatever like that, the automatic assumption isn't cis woman 40s, and also in many cases white cis woman 40s, white cis able-bodied woman 40s. You know, to start to get much, you know, a much more accessible, inclusive space for actors of all marginalized groups. It is a case of, you know, getting a certain thrill from, you know, having, you know, trans persons play random truck driver number one, and like, you know, like, we don't just have to play sad trans person, you know, number 43 in this this sort of thing. I joke so I don't cry.
That's the mood over here too.
Yeah. And I mean, that was something important about this as well, was it was like, we weren't going to make a tragic trans, this was not going to be a tragic trans story. This is not going to be a transition story. You know, this was me very much coming in from off the back of some bad experiences about not being listened to, and being like, all right, these are the things I want and these are the things I don't want to see, and whatever. And these two being like, yeah, we know, cool, great, do it. Like, we're not standing in your way. And I was like, okay, good then. Right. But, you know, not making something that was painting trans people as sad or lonely or alone, you know, centering community and centering love and affection and never in any way doubting or putting in, you know, making a question mark over Kaz's identity. You know, that's something that, you know, not everyone notices, but the people who notice it, you know, are incredibly like pleased to see it. But, you know, at no point does Kaz refer to himself, or no one else refers to him as anything other than Kaz. And the time that we do hear a dead name, we don't actually hear a dead name. You know, and that's some great trickery with, you know, Max and I kind of working together and talking through all of these things about why, and then coming up with ways to do it that managed both to achieve what we both needed to happen from scenes and things like that. Yeah, you know, Kaz never refers to himself as anything other than Gerald's kid. No one else says, "Oh, you used to be blah blah blah." You know, making sure that at the core of things, you know, our main character is respected as well. It's really important.
Absolutely. And I didn't even get to so many of my other questions and like praises about the varied just themes of environmentalism, of homecoming, of family, there's so much richness in this. And it sounds like in the making of it too, there was just so much thought put into it. So I just I don't want to wrap up, but I have to wrap up. And I want to say thank you so much, everyone, for coming, for giving us this beautiful film to share, and then also for giving us some behind the scenes on how this was made, and sharing your thought processes. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Jenna. Yeah, and thank you, NewFest.
Deeply intersectional project. So,
yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So thank you all so much for watching. And if you like this, we have so many other selections. All you have to go to is newfest.org and check out over 120 film programs, short films, panels, events. It's incredible. It's amazing. Go get an all access pass and enjoy more, watch more, and you have a great night, morning, whenever you're watching this. Thank you so much.